Look at this and tell me if it looks familiar. The performance issues on display here are happening because the weapon skill is too low. Let's check what weapon type we are using, then check how high our skill for that weapon type is on our character. Short blade and 5, eh? Well, that's no good. Let's see our other weapon skills and get a weapon for the highest among those skills. For me here, that would be blunt weapon at 45, a respectable number. As you can see, this weapon gives me much better results. Preferably, you should use a weapon skill that's 35 or higher. If you don't want to increase a skill to such a level naturally, you could always pay for training and raise it that way. But let's say that your weapon skill is high enough, but your performance is still not good. What to do then? The first thing you should check is your fatigue. That's the green bar at the lower left corner of your screen, assuming you haven't repositioned it. If it's full, that's great. If it's empty, that means you are out of stamina, and doing things when you are very tired is usually not a good idea. Before engaging in combat, restore your fatigue by waiting or use a restore fatigue potion. But there are other ways to better your chance to hit your enemy. For example, you can increase your agility. It's less effective than increasing your skill, but it does help. Another attribute you can increase is luck, but it has an even smaller effect than agility. Please note that luck and agility also make you harder to hit for your enemy. 1 point of fortify attack is equally effective as 1 point of weapon skill, but the effect is unfortunately fairly hard to get. There are some scrolls and weapons, and you start with 10 points of fortify attack if you choose the warrior birth sign. The only way to get the effect to use it in spellmaking or enchanting is to complete the threads of the web spinner quest for the Morak tongue. Also, if an enemy casts blind on you or sanctuary on themselves, you will also miss more attacks. But what if hitting things isn't a problem? What if instead you die because you can't deal enough damage fast enough? Well, firstly, unless you are using daggers, you probably shouldn't be spamming your attack. Check your weapon damage and you will see a range, like this. If you spam attack, you will only deal the minimum damage. If instead you hold the attack button for a little bit before releasing, you will deal the maximum damage. You should also make sure that you aren't thrusting with a mace, and that you are thrusting with a spear. If in doubt, you can always check the always use best attack button in the options menu. It makes combat a little bit more boring, so I don't use it myself, but it can simplify things for you. Well, if you're doing everything right in that regard, the most obvious way to increase damage is to get a better weapon. You can get one from a better material, such as going from silver to glass, or a bigger size, such as going from dagger to short sword, or from longsword to claymore, or from staff to warhammer, while staying in the same weapon skill. But first you should maybe check if your weapon is perhaps too damaged. If it is, repair it. Your weapon's repair state does affect the damage. Another thing you can do is increase your strength. Even if you don't want to wait for a level up or you can't cast spells, you can still just drink some alcohol to get a temporary boost. If you're a rogue and attack from stealth, you can score a critical hit. If you get a melee critical hit, it gives you 4 times the damage. For bows and crossbows, it's only 1.5 times. Unfortunately, there are no magic critical hits. And if you're a monk and only fight with your hands, please be aware, if you attack someone, you will first damage their fatigue. You will only start decreasing their health when they are on the ground. And in contrast to all weapon skills, the hand-to-hand skill does increase the damage you do, but strength doesn't. And what if you want to, instead, reduce the damage you get? You can wear armor. Your armor rating reduces the damage you get from physical attacks. You could also try the block skill. Equip a shield and every time you block you will receive 0 physical damage. Having a shield also contributes to your armor rating. So far I have only talked about regular combat. What about magic? For magic it's in some ways simpler. You can see your chance to successfully cast a spell right next to the spell cost. Each spell has a magicka cost. Magicka is the blue bar just above fatigue. The higher the spell cost, the harder the spell is to cast. If you have low fatigue, your chance of success decreases. And of course, if you don't have enough magicka, the chance is 0. The damage a spell causes depends only on the magnitude of the spell. If a spell has a range of minimum to maximum damage, the actual damage will be a random number selected in that range. So what to do to actually increase the chance of a successful cast? First, check which school of magic your spell requires. If you level up that skill, your chance to cast the spell will increase. You can also try raising willpower and luck. They have a similar effect that agility and luck have for regular combat. And like with agility, there is some alcohol that can temporarily raise willpower. You should make sure that at least your combat spells have a chance of success at, or at least close to 100%. While you can afford to fail outside of combat, you should only use reliable spells when fighting. You can sabotage an enemy caster by casting silence on them. This will make them unable to use magic. If you use sound instead, they will still be able to cast, but their chance to do so successfully will be decreased, which means that they will continue to waste their mana. Or you could just kill them and save yourself the bother. Like I've hinted before, your armor only protects you against physical damage, so how do you guard against spells? Well, firstly, you can always dodge. The projectiles are slow enough that you don't need top-level reflexes to avoid them. But there's also Reflect, fairly hard to get and even harder to cast, but it does what it says, at least against spells. Then there's Spell Absorption. You negate the spell and you get the magicka in that spell for your own use. Atronach Birth Sign users get some of that. There's Resist magicka too. Bretons start with that, orcs as well. Resist magicka won't work against elemental spells. Elemental spells are fire, frost, shock and poison. You will have to get spells to resist each individual element if you want to be immune. Resist magicka also doesn't work against paralyze. You'll need resist paralysis or a very high willpower for that. Since you've reached this point of the video, I can safely conclude that you are amazing. Please celebrate this fact by writing "I did not have relations with that horse" in the comment section. I am all-knowing, but I might have deliberately omitted some information in order to test you. If I did, please write it down. Also, if you want to learn how to steal, please watch this video next. Or, if you already know, please watch this video that YouTube thinks you will like. Thanks for watching.